Good evening, and welcome to the latest episode of the Eve Prosper Market Show. I'm your host, Lockefox, and I'm here with all of the market news you need ahead of the weekend to go make mad-isk. So let's start where we usually do and talk about the show for just a second. I want to thank Christopher is handling our edits now, and I want to thank him right here live on the thing. I know that last week's show had some audio issues, but we should have a solution for this week's show. So please bear with us while we get this under control. If you want to follow the show, the best way to do so is just remember Eve Prosper. That'll get you to Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and our blog. We are live on Fridays at 0400 on Twitch and YouTube. So come join us live if you can. Also, we do post directly to YouTube at the end of this, so if you miss anything, don't worry. The entire show will be available as soon as possible for everyone to enjoy. I'd like to also thank our patrons who keep this show on the air every week, except for weeks I miss, like last week, and keep it ad-free. There are no gates on any of our content, and it's thanks to our patrons. It's a real pain in the butt trying to get if you watch any amount of YouTube drama over the last 6 months, you hear how difficult it is to fund a lot of these creative endeavors, and I really have to thank our patrons for making this show possible and keeping us on the air every week. So even if it's just $1, that goes an extremely long way in keeping this show running week over week. It keeps us in hardware. It keeps us on the air. It makes everything run so much smoother. So if you donate on Patreon, we're trying to give up swag on the Discord. It's broken at the moment, but we're working on it. So be sure to claim that reward if you are a patron already. And we will get you that sick gold swag. I got to work on it this weekend. If you can't support us monetarily, that is absolutely fine. Don't you worry about that. All I need to know is that you're subscribed to the show, because I want to see those numbers moving up and to the right like every good market person. Share us with your friends. Get us, watch us every week. I like seeing the numbers increase. Just watching is support enough. And also, if you want to go above and beyond and you're feeling guilty, do your 5 calls. That's really what I need. If you're in the U.S., make your 5 calls. That's going to be my special request for the week. With that, I think that's all of our news. Oh, last piece of news is that please do check the doobly-doo down below for information on how to join the Discord. It's free and open to everyone. If you want to follow the development behind the scenes, that's the best place to do so. If you want to talk market strategies or get first access to behind the scenes graphs, that's the place where it's all going up. So please join our Discord. We are still on the Tweetfleet Slack. You can still reach me there. It's still a good resource, so don't leave it behind. But we are the primary chat for this show. The best way to get in touch with me outside of live right now is on our Discord. With that, we're going to go ahead and move right into the show. We're going to make this thing work. We're going to go through all of the numbers and all of the graphs. And we're going to start where we always do, with Plex. So Plex is down to just under 1.1 at the moment. This weakness I expected with the goon operations that were going on. This made sense because of all the news going on. We saw a peak into overbought territory that said that it was a little overvalued. Fine. But I expected it to rise into 1.1 from here as opposed to slump into 1.04. So this is a little unexpected. If we go look at the whole year, again, we're seeing just a little bit of downward weakness. I'm not really sure what to attribute this to. I had expected more activity in January, especially with all of the Reddit shit posting about all of the wars that were supposed to be going on and who was going to be, killing whose Fortizars and all of that news. But we're seeing a piece of weakness. So while we're in this downward trend, as we're under 1.1, I got to give a buy. I got to give a buy signal. But it's it's useful to be cautious in the next few weeks because we should be expecting to see movement. Let me see how I can put this. We should be expecting to see hype into FanFest. And CCP has been extremely quiet, but the CSM summit should be finished now. And I would expect next week to be quiet as well, with the rollout of 119.2. But as soon as 119.2 is out, I kind of expect the news to start turning up as CCP starts the march into FanFest. I'm still not seeing the expected free-to-play ad blitz that we were expecting, but we are seeing some Omega offers start to bubble through, and we'll talk about those in just a second. Next, zooming in on the Plex prices as they are now. So my magic number on Plex here is this 1,000 units on order. Here, looking at the sell order quantities. If we're under that amount, I expect positive growth. I expect us to need more than 1,000, just a little bit more than 1,000 Plex on order to keep the prices, to keep the supply chain steady. So if we're above 1,000, I expect it to trend downwards. If we're below 1,000, I expect it to trend upwards. And we've been seeing that since the end of January and even into February that we're still down at the 900, 950 line. So it's just barely strong, just barely positive kind of territory. But we see this weakness in the Plex curve, which is a little uncharacteristic, if I might say. Again, it smells like people are just kind of in holding patterns, but I expect prices to rise if wars are done at the moment. Then I expect industrial and ISK making activity to start pumping this number up again. Looking at the other RMT items, again washed out because of this. I should really just remove the resculpt certificates. What we see is that we are still seeing a small premium on skill extractors, a little bit more than expected, and the bonus here on multiple pilot training certificates, I think, might go away if Reddit is to be believed today. There was news that if you buy something like a 3 or a 6 month plan or more, CCP is throwing in multiple pilot training certificates or multiple pilot training period in with the offer as sort of a sweeten the deal thing. I didn't get a chance to dig into exactly what the terms of the deal were, but this would be downward pressure on a lot of the RMT items, since you won't need as many multiple pilot training certificates. This is going to wreak havoc on the skill extractor and injector markets. But things are still kind of in a weak, blasé position that we might not see the ramifications about this for a few weeks to come. Zooming in on the skill trading market, with Plex staying steady, we are seeing that the margin is staying relatively healthy. Not a whole lot to say here, but again, with that multiple pilot training certificate story, the positive margin on skill extraction might start to get hurt. What I had originally expected, if fans of the show for a long time may know, is that people would subsidize their accounts with skill points. You know, if you've got an ISK making tune and you don't need to make more skill points on that tune, it would make sense to subsidize your Plex bill with skill points, because it's free money still. And we didn't end up seeing that. And with the ability to mine more skill points now out there with this Omega deal, we should expect that the margin on skill trading should go down, because it should be easier, it should be cheaper to get those skill points extracted. But that assumes that everyone would, want to do, that the general public really cares about this. And as far as I can tell, skill trading is a niche item. So we may not actually see this margin close by very much, but we'll keep a close eye in the next couple of days. Next, skill injectors, like I said, I expect them to come down. I expect the supplies to rise, but we're steady at 640 into the weekend. If things go drastically differently, we will post on the Discord and in the tweet and on Twitter with updates. But these numbers were pulled as of an hour ago, so if there was going to be a massive panic, we should have seen it by now. It usually takes 9 to 18 hours for panic to set in, especially when it comes to dev blogs. So that's our RMT picture. Next, moving on to our indexes, looking at net trade. The thing I'm going to keep saying this week is things look slow, things look kind of boring, and the net trade sort of shows that we're seeing a tapering in the mineral supply, we're seeing a tapering in the ship demand, we're seeing level activity in the RMT markets. Things just tend to be a little bit weak. If we look at the killboard data, we see a similar story that activity is just down slightly. It's not by very much. Looks like we were at something like 16K total destruction in January, and we're down to 15K total kills per day. But we're still above 1 trillion ISK killed. The thing I was interested to see, and it doesn't look like this played out, is that I was wondering if the U.S. protests may have had people playing less video games, right? Either they're out protesting, or they're out doing other work, or what have you. One way or the other, you'd think that data might bear out, maybe staying in and avoiding the world. But we don't really see that. The dip that might be visible here on 119.1 is a day that our system was down, so I would ignore that. But like the weekend peaks aren't really that shaved off. Like what I'd expect to see is that these high weekend peaks hitting like the 1.5 trillion ISK destroyed mark might instead be 125 or 1.0, really shaving off those peaks. But we didn't see that, so theory busted. But that's why we do the show, looking for interesting trends. We came up with a hypothesis. It was wrong. That's why we check it. So just thought it was interesting. Moving on to minerals, titanium is down and it's still falling. I had said the last time we were on the air, I really should have moved the line back. We were at 5.0 and I thought we were going to stay steady. But the bottom really fell out of this market, heading down under 4.5. And we can really see what was going on here is that as soon as we crossed the 20 billion units mark, we saw a precipitous fall in titanium prices. and the fall keeps on going, and we're at 425 right now with a razor thin margin. But it looks like the oversupply has started to ebb. Again, these get really hard to plot when you're in them. It's very easy to say, well, it's going to go up and it's going to come back to normal, or it's going to go up, up, up forever and ever. It'll never come down. And we're seeing it stay steady at what looks like about 22 billion units on the market. Being at 425 and having watched Tritanium for a very long time, it is super tempting to buy in, but I would caution against that strongly, especially until we see the economic report from CCP that should be out probably tomorrow, maybe on Monday. And I really want to take a look at the Delve productivity in that, is that if goons can keep up their work in Delve and keep doing the industrial powerhouse work, this might fall again. And it's really hard to catch the knife in this case. So we're just gonna have to wait and see. It's a really good price. It's not a bad time to stock up if you need a buttload of Tritanium and you're going to use it in the next, let's say, 8 weeks. But as a investment vehicle, I wouldn't do it. Next, Pyrite, similar story. We were at 7.0. We looked steady at 7.0 the last time we were on the air, and we've fallen down under 6.5. And again, similar story. We almost doubled, more than doubled, the supply here. We were at 3 billion units, and we rose that over 7.5 billion. We saw a little bit of normalization as a big chunk of this got bought out as the price hit 6.0. So it looks like we're staying steady at about somewhere in the 6.0 to 6.5 band. And supply is staying steady at 5 billion. Again, same story as Tritanium. It's not a bad time to stock up if you're going to use it soon, but it is probably not a great investment vehicle until we figure out more news ahead of FanFest. If we start getting some leaks about what might be coming in FanFest, this might be interesting again. Mexilon has been the darling for us the last few weeks. We saw it peak at 80 and has since backed off to around 75. And trend lines look like it's going to stay stable. Zoomed in, we can see a huge glut in supply. This is a very strange pattern to see. To see somebody supplying half of the market supply so suddenly, and to have it evaporate. Like, this is this lower blue line is very hard to manipulate because you still have to have the items, right? And if you put up a sell order that'll never get sold, like something like, oh, I'm selling my Mexilon for 700, ha ha ha, aren't I funny? You still have to pay the fees on that. And I mean, you get most of it back, probably all of it back if you cancel, but like, that's a lot of money to be putting on the line for a joke. And like this looks like the same pattern we saw with the Plex wall back in May. Just not as long sustained. So, and it's on sell orders. So this was extremely weird. We're back at about 500 million units on market at the moment. It looks like we're even trending down. So if you're a gambling person, this might not be a bad chance to buy in if you can get a buy order at 70 or just below. So we could, you could buy at 70. We could sell at 80 in the next, let's say, 5 days. It's a risky bet, but I don't think you'll lose money. So it's a positive one in my book. Next, Isogen it just keeps falling. Again, Isogen has been our favorite mineral to pick on for the last few months, since Fozzie messed with the Amber, the Amber mixes. We're down at 55 at the moment, which is half of what it was 6 months ago. So I hope you weren't holding on for Isogen coming back. The interesting part here is that we're not seeing the same oversupply picture as we were seeing in the other minerals. Yeah, I mean, things were hot last week and the week before. where a glut came in, but we're talking about like 20% of the market as opposed to 100% of the market as a glut. And we're still at a 600 million median, which would tend to suggest that the prices should go up. But like Isogen, I still think is oversupplied thanks to high sec, and this is going down even further. Isogen's a loser in my book. So prove me wrong, fight me at the sun, 1v1. Next, Noxium. We were saying it was staying steady at 360. And then I take 1 week off and it falls down to 340. So thanks, guys. We saw it bounce off against the oversold line here, which at least gives us some hope in the technicals, saying that if we cross this bottom blue line down here, saying that the price has fallen too far too fast is what that bottom line tells us. And we've recovered back to 340. And again, we see a doubling in supply that's starting to wean again. So wane, sorry, not wean. And the prices could go up. Like this sub 320 buy order is tempting. Let's see, at 320, you need to get it up to something in a 350, 360 wouldn't be bad. To get your 10%. So this isn't a terrible place to be buying. The margins are the margins getting a little bit wide. It's risky. You might lose a little bit of money. You might not get your fees back, but it's not a bad gamble if you were in a gambling mood. Zydrine is losing steam again, and again, I am feeling vindicated. We saw it dip last week. We're almost down to 1,100 on the market. Again, we're seeing, instead of a doubling like we saw everywhere else, we're seeing sustained growth. Again, I will be looking at this very closely with the economic report for January. We should be expecting a lot of this coming out of wormholes and out of nullsec, thanks to the Rorqual changes. And though nullsec might be better about balancing their mixes for industry, I expect wormhole guys are just going to be mining the best ISK per hour and compressing it and shipping it out. So I still expect this to fall. I don't know how far or where the bottom of this is going to be. Personally, I'm aiming for 1K, but I don't know if we'll actually get there. Megasite is next. We saw a dip, but a recovery, which makes me think that this might be held up by speculation or manipulation. We're not seeing the same oversupply pattern we're seeing in every single other material. So if you're holding Megasite, I would get out of it because this reeks of manipulation in my book. I think that somebody might be buying up the markets, or maybe I don't understand the mixes as well as I think I do. But the fact that this is the one item to break the trend where we saw huge growth in supply and then a leveling off, we started to see that trend, and we should be at 60 million if we were following everybody else, and we're not. So this is strange and a bad omen in my book. And last but certainly not least, the party on Morphite is over. We are down under 10K. So I hope you guys got out while the getting's good, because it's buy-in time for Morphite. We're seeing the prices just skirt against 10K here live on the server, but supplies are getting strong. Again, that same trend we've been seeing. I'm a broken record here, that the supplies are strong. We're seeing a bit of buyout, it looks like, trying to keep the prices high. I would be looking for one of these 9.5K buy orders if I were speculating. as far as a buy-in for longer term investment, I'd be looking for something a little more advantageous than 9.5K. I'd like something in a 9.2 personally, just to give a little bit more room for growth. So I would put in stop orders down a little bit lower and just wait for the market to come to me. But a lot of you guys may not have that patience. If you all go do this, then it won't work. That whole thing. So we're just about under 10K. Under 10K is a buy on Morphite in my book. I just don't know when you're going to get your money back. You will make money in whatever the next war is. I just never know when the next war is. So you could be waiting 3 months. You could be waiting 6 months. So that's my disclaimer on that. You will make money, and you may make a decent number, but you may have to wait too long for it to actually be worth it. So that's Morphite. Moving on to fuel. We're seeing a huge bump in nitrogen isotopes and a huge dive in helium isotopes. This is extremely weird to see. Nitrogen's taken a huge clobbering over the last few months since Ascension. Since we can now use rainbow fuels in a lot of the industrial and Citadel uses, the need for nitrogen has fallen. But with the productivity of Delve, and the fact that Caldari towers are still the best way to refine moon materials into final products, we may be seeing a resurgence. Now, this again smells foul. That we've added, what is that? A little over, let's call it 15% overnight, and that is extremely strange, especially with helium diving down. So I'd keep a really close eye on this. If you've got nitrogen, now's not a bad time to sell, of course, but I would not be buying in this case. I would be steering clear of this as much as possible. And if you're using Caldari blocks, I would try to use something else. If we look at the block picture, actually, we see that Caldari blocks have spiked tremendously compared to everyone else. We're watching everyone else sell in the loss region, actually, and Caldari is an extreme profit at the moment. So if you're a producer, life is good, but this is strange. This is extremely strange. Strontium is our canary in the coal mine for SOV warfare, and we're just not seeing it. Looks like mining supplies are staying steady, maybe growing very slightly. So strontium is coming in. Nobody's really using it. That's great. We are seeing a shortage, though, in heavy water, which is a indicator for the space bards boosting ships. The supply here, getting as short as it is, looks ripe for manipulation to spike the price over the weekend. So again, another risky bet. I would put in a advantageous buy order personally to try and play this game. But again, you are flipping a coin. You are gambling with fate here. This is hot shortage territory, and it should remedy itself relatively quickly. So if you're active this weekend, I would look really carefully at heavy water. If you can get some sub 350, or if you can schlep it in from a faraway buy order, you might be able to make a pretty penny if you're fast on the draw this weekend. Moving on to Outliers, we're going to start where we always do, looking at advanced materials. I had some hopes in the middle market with hypersynaptic fibers and nanotransistors and phenolic composites. Nanotransistors are starting to lose some of their luster, but hypersynaptic fibers are on the rise. This might be a decent chance to jump on if you are a moon refiner to make a couple extra bucks here on hypersynaptic fibers. Otherwise, things are looking relatively as expected. The plasmonics metamaterials, though, are taking a huge dump now that the drums of war have stopped, and the demand for the Tech 2 ships like Logistics and Bombers has subsided. So not a bad chance to buy up some cheap buy orders on Plasmonic, but I don't know when you're going to get rid of it. So 50-50. Looking at the PI4 market for supplies into Citadels, things are looking relatively steady. We're actually seeing some downward trends here in self-harmonizing power cores, wetware mainframes, and organic mortar applicators. I didn't expect things to get weak in this market. I expected them to be volatile, but relatively strong. But it looks like we may be seeing, without a whole lot of extra warfare to be grinding away assets, that the industrialists might be overproducing again. But the downward pressure is extremely weak, so I wouldn't panic yet if this is your income source. So things look okay. They're just not great. Looking at the Gila, we're seeing supplies are extremely hot at the moment. If you were looking to stock up, now is not a bad chance to do so. I'd be putting in opportunistic buy orders at about 195, maybe a little bit lower. That party might have already passed, so if you follow that advice, you might just be SOL. I don't know when this will turn around, but supplies are hot. I would expect a steady state price of 200 in the next 2 or 3 weeks if things don't change. And that's, we'll see where we end up going. I think the price has a little bit more to fall before buying in. But if you buy in at 190, maybe 189, and shoot to be sold out at 230 plus, you wouldn't make a bad return for doing that. Again, no promise on when you get to do that. And I know that that's really the hardest part of this job, is not the what, but the when. Another interesting one is supplies on Ishtars are starting to look short. And if you are a producer, this might be a decent chance to jump into the market and sell some extra Ishtars for some extra cash. Again, I don't have the actual production margins, so I might be sending you into a trap. But the supplies are getting a bit short as people switch from warfare to ratting as a pastime, and it'd be a decent chance as a producer for the next 2-ish weeks to be jumping in on this party. Next, an interesting one that I missed the last time we were on the air was the Saber peaked with the operations, all of the propaganda going on about warfare on Reddit. But that party's almost over. We're back to just slightly above where we were before we left. So it's still might be a decent buy. It still might be a decent build, especially with cheap plasmonic materials. But your mileage may vary. Please do the math before you follow my advice. Moving on to modules. I don't know how this didn't trip our analysis for the last few weeks, but large capacitor control circuit 2s have just been falling, which is strange given the fact that most salvage has been rising. It probably is the fact that the stuff that goes into capacitor control circuits and the stuff that goes into the ECs are mutually exclusive, and the added salvaging productivity is probably driving the price of these right into the dirt. But seeing a Tech 2 module like that, as cheap as it is, and have fallen as far as it has, is quite interesting. It's bargain basement at the moment. And then another one that was interesting because I've never seen it trigger the flag that it had, is the damage control 2. We've been seeing it a lot more volatile than we usually expect it to be. Because it's so easy to produce and it's so ubiquitous in fitting, I expect the prices to be like exactly the price of materials plus some production margin. And no matter how many people buy, I don't expect it to move very much, but we've been seeing more volatility in damage control circuits, damage control 2s, excuse me, in the last few weeks. And we're down at the moment, but if technical analysis is to be believed, this is not a bad buy. And it's a very active market at anywhere from 10 to 20,000 every day, means that there's some decent money in this market to be made as a speculator, and especially if you're gonna leverage some arbitrage, damage control 2s might be a decent chance to stock up this weekend. Again, do the math. Your mileage may vary. This is not a guarantee. And then on to one of our last segments, the part where I figure out if I know what I'm talking about or I'm eating crow. We go through the prediction review. Interesting one I didn't expect is the Stratios is falling even further. I didn't expect to see this dip here, this extra supply coming out. Not sure what's driving that. That's very strange, but prices are responding accordingly. Not a bad chance to buy in sub 200 million if you are watching this. I don't know if you can make a ton of money on it, but if you need Stratioses, this is a good chance to be buying in. Logistics cruisers, we talked about this the last few weeks. This was one of our canaries for nullsec warfare. We saw big spikes in the Scimitar and the Basilisk. The Guardian actually looks like it overcorrected. So if you are the type who needs Guardians or speculates or builds them, it might be a good chance to hold on to a few because the price looks slightly overcorrected. Similarly with the Scimitar and the fall in plasmatic metamaterials, that might also be a decent buy given the production cost. And then last, we move on to our violence report, looking across the cluster for the biggest movers and shakers in the violence market. Interestingly, this looks like a bug. Don't quote me on this February 1st and 2nd numbers. Those don't look right. The interesting thing from this week is that the Macarial is not on the top 15, on the top 10 ships list this week. The Fortizar is, which isn't a ship, which may have been what knocked the ship off of the list. But usually we see, our rattlesnakes, our Ishtars, our Gilas, our Macarials, and our Stratioses all up in the top with Tengus and sometimes what are they called? Thanatos. This is the mix we've been seeing week over week over week. And we're not seeing the Macarial. The Macarial has been a huge mover and shaker inside the nullsec meta, and it just didn't show up this week, which is extremely strange. Next, moving into systems. Interesting to see Amamake and Agua. Auga. Let's call it Auga. Representing this week. We haven't seen them on the list. Amamake should be more active than it usually is, as a popular place for failed alliances. Oh wait, no. I mean, outside of nullsec staging system. It's probably where PL is, and I'm just stirring the shit pot at this point. Interesting to see Auga, the spike there. I'm wondering what operation was going on there. And before I close out, there are rumors that there is a Burn Jita coming up either this weekend or next. I've heard no justification for this yet. It's been interesting. I like Burn Jita. It is a bit of a Eve staple. But I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in it running effectively, is I guess the way I put it. If you are worried about it, if you do see news reports that Burn Jita is going on, just keep your freighter at home. It's really easy. Get a courier to move it. Make sure it's insured. If it gets blown up, no big deal. This is the way I would deal with it. If you're a market speculator, I would be watching. I would not be. If you can sell in Bernjita, then go for it. But I would be watching for the next weekend. What usually happens is that with all of the freighters stuck at home and the Bernjita operation going on, then what happens is the material supplies tend to stack up. And then once all of those freighters come, once the routes are safe again, then all of that extra material comes flooding into the market, crashing a lot of the prices. So if Bernjita is coming up, don't buy the weekend of Bernjita, buy the following weekend as supplies spike. So that's my advice on Bernjita. And then last, for regions, like, seriously, this number can't be right. The system must have been down on the first. We're seeing the same mix of systems as we usually see. Ketch is new to the list, but Black Rise and Citadel usually lead our list. So not a whole lot to say there. So let's go ahead and wrap up the show. I have been your host, Lockefox. This has been the Eve Prosper Show, and I want to thank everybody who tuned in live. We had a pretty decent turnout, looking like just a little over 50 people tuned in between YouTube and Twitch. You too can tune in live for the latest market news every Friday at 0400. That's Thursday night U.S. time. Do come join the Eve Prosper Discord. That is the very best place to get in touch with me outside of this show. I do check all of the platforms. You can email me, you can write me in game, you can send carrier pigeons. It will all eventually get to me, but the very best way to get in touch with me is on the Discord. Links to join are down in the info below. If you enjoy what we do, the very best way to support us in making more awesome stuff is through our Patreon at patreon.com/EveProsper. This show is on the air thanks to our patrons. We are kept in hardware. We are kept in software licenses. It kind of holds me hostage to doing this show when I'm having a terrible day at work, if you were watching the pre-show. So I got to thank our patrons every week. Even $1 goes an extremely long way. We do not block any content, so every bit of Prosper content is free and clear for everyone, and that is thanks to our patrons. There are no ads. There is no magic secret box cabal thing. Everything is free and clear, and that is thanks to the generosity of our patrons. If you cannot support monetarily, that is perfectly fine. We understand. Do get subscribed. Do share us among your friends. I do like seeing numbers going up and to the right. This is a market show after all, and that is the best graph we can ever expect, is one that goes up and to the right. So share us, tune in, get subscribed, and that would be excellent. So I'm going to go ahead and end the show here. I want to thank everybody who tuned in live. We will be back next week in the same time slot, hopefully with shiny new CSM news and economic numbers for the month of January. So thank you, everybody, and good night.